Today we're going to have some Tequfah lessons from March 2023 and also from March 2024 that's coming up, what we want to look forward to. So are you ready? We have about 68 slides, but there's a lot of details. And so just for those of you that saw some of our work last year, it was not recorded or uploaded, but anyway, we'll bring that in as well. So this is between what happened last year in March 2023 and what we're expecting in March 2024. Well, something huge happened in 2023 for the marking of the teshuva shadow sign that we had not recognized before. We were really pretty surprised. And we feel that this must have our attention for March 2024 because we really do believe that Yahuah was showing us something special. So is Tequfah's next lesson something about a special key? B, about a special key of knowledge? That's what we want to find out. Could this research be another key of restoration that Yahuah has handed to us to understand the knowledge established on creation cycle number 4? With the commission of the Mazzaroth, has he handed us a key that we need to be looking at very seriously to see if it fits? Okay, I just wonder if you knew this. We talked about this last year, some facts about the weekly Shabbat worship days and cycles and the day. You know, when Covenant Calendar team leaders are busy teaching in other time zones of the world, like the Philippines, we have some time zones to work out between us and them. So when we join the Philippines, for an example, on a Friday at 6 o'clock, this would be Pacific Daylight Time, and let's just say it's March 31st, and we want to teach them about Covenant Calendar, we have to first consider the time and the date. And then we are able to also meet with others in that area, like people from Thailand, Malaysia, West and East Australia, and New Zealand, and India if they want. You know, it's quite a big area. We can kind of meet with them all about the same time. But the question is, what day and what date is it for these 6 different time zones? 6 different time zones together there in the South Pacific. So for each one joining us on March 31st, for us over here in Canada, it's already April 1st and it's their Shabbat. It's 8 o'clock in the morning for Thailand. It's about 9 o'clock for Malaysia, the Philippines, and West Australia. It's noon in Queensland. And it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Shabbat at New Zealand. And if Dubai decides to join us, it will be about 6 o'clock on Sabbath morning on their April the 1st. Now, what do you think about all of this? Why are all of us not celebrating Shabbat at the exact same time? Because remember, in Canada, we're over here in this blue and orange area, and it would be Friday for us. But over here in the South Pacific, it's already Shabbat that they are enjoying. In fact, we get all the blessings from their Shabbat. And most of us understand that due to that man-made international date line, that very crooked line right there, that is given to us, and the Roman midnight day start, that Sabbath is celebrated by many around the world before Shabbat even reaches us in North America. This international date line has been placed here by man in a location that would be the least disruptive for the economic systems of the world. So here's just an example. Let's just take Hawaii, for instance, the Hawaiian Islands. If it's 6 o'clock on Shabbat morning, it's already 5 o'clock in the morning. It's in New Zealand on Sunday. And you know what? This happens every day on every Shabbat, and it happens on every feast statute. We have to deal with these time zones. Well, we all say that's not so hard to understand, and we accept such things. Oh, but wait a minute. Until the calculation of the feast days and the dates seem very different between where we live and where they live, And then all of a sudden, many are sort of concerned that everyone in the world is not on the same Passover date of April 2, April 3, or maybe even April 4. So what happened? And that is the exact question that Yahuah has been waiting for everyone to ask.
Yep.
Not only that, complicate things even more, man has designed another line at Greenwich. It's right here in this purple box. You can see that timeline right there. That is called the universal time coordinate in that time zone. And now this time zone, it never ever goes to daylight time. They always stay the same all year. This time zone announces supposedly the exact time of the teshuva, or what NASA would call as the equinox. And I'm just going to give you an example for 2023. They said it was on the date of March the 20th, and the time was exactly 9:24 in the evening at Greenwich. And every time zone in the world has to calculate what that time would be on their current clock. So if you're living in New Zealand, it's not going to be 9:24 at night. It's going to be a different time. So what is the problem here? Well, somehow we have forgotten about the international dateline, and we have freely married ourselves to NASA's universal coordinate. That's what we have done. Universal time coordinate. Have you ever thought to ask if Yahuah has his own universal time coordinate and his own international dateline, where his timing begins for the calculations of the feasts and the festivals and his appointed times? Have you ever thought about that? We're going to take a look at a lot of world maps, but this one is for March 2023. We just want to use it as an example for right now as we begin to try to get started on what's happening here. Take a look. I've got the night season. This is where time and date has the night season. And right down the middle would be midnight. So in March 2023, we were told that 9:24 at night, or 21:24, was the exact moment of the Tequfah, teshuva. We'll get through to that. And on this line here, we have two different dates because Greenwich is over here in this area, right here. So they're on March the 20th, but anybody on the other side of this midnight marker, they're already on March 21. Okay. Well, just look where we are. We would be on March the 20th, right? Over here in the South Pacific, definitely they are on March 21. Look for these twilight time zones. There's 3 of them all the way around this night season. We're going to be talking about these 3 twilight zones. It's pretty important because they are going to alter a lot of things that we're understanding. Another thing I want you to note is this blue bar we'll talk about in a little bit is going to be right on the edge of this civil twilight zone right here, that blue bar. That's always going to follow the night season. Okay. We want you to also note the position of the sun and the moon on every slide. Now on this slide, the sun and the moon are together, but they don't always stay that way. So just kind of watch where the sun and the moon happen to be moving around. And I want you to also watch for the shift of this night season from year to year. It doesn't stay here. It's always shifting around. Okay, let's continue on. Now, this is going to be for the September Tequfah. This is 6 months later. And you can see that this night season has shifted. It used to be in this part covering Africa and Asia. Okay, it is now shifted, and the night season is right on top of North America and South America. And what does the time and date say? That it would be Shabbat, September 23rd, okay, and the fall teshuva will be about 6:50 in the morning. So right here on this bronze bar, this is marking where Greenwich is. Right here, this is 6:50 a.m., and they say that is the equinox moment. Okay, so that's September 23 for them. But for us over here on this side of the midnight marker, about halfway through North America, we're still on September 22. So we've got different dates and different times. We have all kinds of them. I want you to notice there's a big shift in this night season because it used to be over here by bar +9. This time zone is +9. This is where the night season used to be 6 months earlier. And just always kind of take note of this distance between this gold marker where the sun is. Just kind of watch that area right there. So after examining the world map for March the 20th of the Tequfah for 2023, these questions were asked. Who will be able to sight the Tequfah shadow first in 2023? At first glance, it appears that Eastern Australia and New Zealand would be the first to see the teshuva shadow sign. And Covenant Calendar team members were attempting to give some guidance to the new people in the South Pacific. At this time, we were teaching new people in the South Pacific right here, and they were asking us. We started with them in the November, and as we were getting closer to, February, March, they said, well, when is our Passover? And we didn't know what to say to them. We went, So we were checking with one another, and when we get around to March 18, 19, and 20, it appeared that our guesstimate was incorrect because we had tried to tell them what we thought, but we weren't really sure. We had never dealt with this problem before. So the question is, if you were the teacher, what would you have told your members that you were teaching how to find their Passover? When do they start? Well, as covenant calendar lessons expand to other parts of the world, we're all learning new lessons. So next, we are going to make some observations of what the world map looks like on the day of Teshuvah shadow sign from the years 2019 to 2030. So I want you to pay really close attention to see what is happening with the position of the night season. And I want you to watch that midnight marker because that's the one that divides us with the Roman dates. And then you need to watch those dawn and dusk twilights that surround the edges of the night season. I would also like you to watch these red and blue markers and their positions where they are and how many time zones are between them. You might see 5.5 time zones, or it could be 6 time zones. But will it ever say 12 time zones or 15 time zones? Watch for that as well. And at the end, we're going to have a brief summary before we start on the next important and exciting part of this lesson. It's going to be a couple of parts here. So let's get started. We're going to go right back to March of 2019, and we'll be bringing all of these world maps back into a pattern to show you something maybe you remember from last year, but we're going to just review it. So I can't give you any information of, what was happening in 2018 because this is where we're starting. But anyway, March 2019, this is where our night season is. And Greenwich, right in this area, is saying that the equinox moment, the teshuva moment, was at 9:28 at night, okay? And this is the location again for the night season. Watch that sun and moon. Keep an eye on it. And I'm just hoping that we can trust that these maps from timeanddate.com are accurate as they chart the movements of the heavenly bodies. I have no reason to believe that they are super inaccurate. Let's just put it that way. Moving up to March 2020, I'll explain to this how this works now. This blue bar is going to always hug this civil twilight right here. It's always going to hug that. But this red bar is telling you where this night season moved from the 6 months before. So the night season was here, okay, now, or not 6 months before, the year before, okay, from March 2019. So it's moved this much, approximately 5.5 time zones. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it looks like about 5.5. I just want you to take a note of that sun and moon position according to this red bar right here, this red bar. Okay, remember that red bar was where the night season was 1 year before. Okay, will that sun follow the red bar? And if so, the question is it going to mean anything? Should we be paying attention to that? Let's take a look. We're now moving up to March 2021. This red bar tells you where the night season was, that civil twilight was in March 2020. And you can see it has shifted. It's always going west. It has shifted approximately, another 5.5 time zones. I wanted to stay that there for a little bit longer. See that? About 5.5 time zones. And part of this night season, you'll see it over here on the other side of the world map. And the sun and the moon. Doesn't look like the moon is dividing the night there. Let's see what we have in March 2022. This time at Greenwich, they are saying that the teshuva moment was 15:32 or 3:32 p.m. That would be on March the 20th, but you all know by now that when this midnight marker is here, we're going to have a March 21. This area of the world, do they see their shadow on March 20 or March 21? What do you think? Now, here is last year, March 2023. We're just going to pay attention to this a little bit more, and we'll do more at the end. There is a very special note as well. The UTC has teshuva on March the 20th, according to NASA. Okay, 9:24 at night here at Greenwich. Okay, but we had a surprise last year. That is going to be shown in today's teaching. We are now wondering what is going to happen in March 2024. Next month, in fact, what is going to happen? Well, here is March 2024. Our teshuva, according to NASA, they're saying is 3:06 in the morning over here. But I've just put some dots on the map of covenant calendar members that we have joining us from around the world on a pretty regular basis. And you can see we have many, many that are joining us from North America, Canada, and United States. We have people that know about covenant calendar from Norway, Germany, France, United Kingdom, Wales, Scotland, all in that area. Malta, I think Rose is here today. She's from Malta. We have Maria in Greece. Okay, Anya is in Israel. We have some members in the Nigerian area, and also especially Uganda and Kenya, Malawi, and there's quite a few in South Africa, more than 4. And of course, Pakistan and India, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, quite a few, Australia, quite a few, West and East, and then of course, New Zealand. We have Warren and Asher from New Zealand. Okay, so we have quite a few from all of the major time zones of the world. Just wanted to see, have you have a look at that. Okay. Now, down here at the bottom, it says that Tequfah is Wednesday, March the 20th, 2024. This is at 3:06 in the morning at Greenwich, but Vancouver local time in British Columbia is actually March the 19th at 8:06 in the evening, okay? So 2024 is going to be an interesting year. I would like you to take note of the position of the sun and the moon. Here's the moon right over here in Mexico area, and there's the sun over there in the South Pacific. And our question this year is, who is going to see the teshuva shadow first? And when will they see it? Will they see it on March 19 or March 20? Well, we're going to return to this slide later, and we're going to take a closer look at it. Let's go on to next year, 2025. You can see how this night season has moved. It used to be snugging right up here against this red bar that seems to always have that sun following it, and it's moved approximately 6 time zones, okay? It moves about 6 hours. Okay, and that's because we have a 365 and approximately a quarter of a day. It's not quite a full quarter, but that's why this quarter of a day, sometimes it'll be 5.5 time zones and sometimes 6. So this quarter of a day has to get made up after 3 or 4 years. Then it will move a little bit more. But just kind of take note where the sun and where the moon are. What is happening here? Let's go on to March of 2026. This time, we have a teshuva event at Greenwich at 2:46 in the afternoon. That is on March the 20th. But we all know that this midnight marker changes the date. Okay, changes the date. And you can see that over here in Africa and all of Europe, North America and South America all have sunshine. So I guess we're going to get to mark in March 2026 on March the 20th. Do you think that's the way it's going to be? Let's go on to next one, 2027. Don't forget that our night season was marking over here in the -8 time zone, and now it has moved. It's moved all these time zones over to this area. It's now marking right here through Australia and the South Pacific. This time, the teshuva is 8:24 in the evening, 8:24 at night. You can see it's basically right into the night season there in Greenwich. They've gone past these twilights right here, so they're actually in their night season. That's the way it looks in 2027. 2028, our night season has moved again from this red bar about 6 time zones. It's now taking in this part of the world, mostly the Atlantic Ocean. And the teshuva event in this year of 2028 will be at 2:16 in the morning. You can see there is Greenwich in that area. That's 2:16 in the morning. Here's the midnight marker. So they're on the March 20th because of this midnight marker, but everyone on the west side of that is still on March the 19th, according to man's midnight marker. Let's take a look at March 2029. We're only going to March 2030. What has happened is that our night season has moved, and now this red bar is marking where it was. There's a distance of about 5.5 time zones. Our night season moved about 5.5 time zones. Oh, look where the sun's hugging that red line, that red bar, and there's the moon over there. Okay, March 2030. Sun and the moon, can you find them? The moon is here on this midnight marker. Teshuva event this time is at 1:50 in the afternoon. You can see that Greenwich is in broad daylight there, just shortly after noon, about 1:50 it says. And here's the sun in this red bar where the night season used to be in 2029. So now that you've seen all of those, we are ready to put some things together. How many clues to knowledge can we find? How many patterns? Can you see any patterns with the sun position? Can you see any patterns with the moon position? Have you seen any patterns with the red and the blue bars? And have you seen any patterns with the night season? And will any of these patterns change in the near future? Because remember, we are expecting Yahuah to put us back on a 360-day year. This is all here calculated by our 365 and approximately a quarter days. Well, I decided to take a look. The red arrows are the angle pattern. We're going to consider some new data from Nathaniel just a little bit to see if there could be any clues of how to determine ahead of time where Yahuah's international dateline will be found each year, because it moves. So what I did is I just took my line and I just drew it kind of on the edge of this night season, okay? And this is for the years 2019 to 2022, and this was the angle that I found. So will this angle pattern and the position of the sun, along with a certain number of time zones, have clues of how to determine who in the world will see the shadow first, whether it's in the fall or in the spring? And remember, we thought that it would be the South Pacific in 2023 that would see it first, but it did not happen. So now I want to bring up years 2023 to 2026. And you know what I did? I just took my red arrow and I just copied it and moved it over. And look what it did. It has the exact same pattern. Then I wondered, I wonder if it'll do it again in years 2027 to 2030. I made another copy of my arrow and moved it over, and look what happened, everyone. We have a pattern happening here. I'm just wondering, Tim, did you want to say anything while we're on this slide? Okay, I guess not. So let's go on to the next slide. The teshuva shadow data from Nathaniel is who we work together with. He's also known as Faith Child. He was very, very wonderful to work with. And he's been working with tracking the shadows since 2017. And he has been diligently trying to collect teshuva shadow sign data from anyone he can, anywhere in the world. And he's there in West Virginia. So the following data that we received in 2023, last year, it was on March the 30th, and it was about noon, my time. And at that time, the week before, we had set the Passover for April 3rd. And we actually had set that date earlier in the year. We did a good guesstimate. We made an assessment of what we thought it would be because people want to plan their calendars for Passover. Well, that data was assessed with as much logic and common sense as we could muster, keeping in mind that the equinox slides that we have just been given and the patterns that have been presented to us when we looked at these patterns. So we went through Nathaniel's chart step by step, and we were watching for clues. We're going to show that because right now, this is the chart that he sent me. Yes, it had a lot of information on it. To receive it just days before Passover, I just went, oh my, we have got some things to look at here because he had data collected from different parts of the world, as you can see. He had it listed out like this. Positive vibes is F, is in this time zone here. Johnny Tabor in E, this time zone right here. So he's got the people that he collected data from. He assigned them a number. Yes, a letter and sometimes a number. Okay, you can see that. We're going to look at this a little bit closer later on. He had 4 people reporting from Covenant Calendar. And then, of course, you can see quite a few from other places in the world that he's been working with over the years. But I was really interested in these notes, okay? And I think that what we need to do is look at those notes because they have some information on them. Now, Nathaniel is pretty careful. He looks at the data and he's very, very particular about what he finds. So positive vibes is from North Central Arkansas. And the black numbers are the day of the shadow. And then the first day, these green numbers are the first day. So this gentleman in North Arkansas, he said he saw the straight line shadow on March the 19th. So he was saying the first day of the new year was March the 20th. Here's the comments from Nathaniel. He said he uses the straight line method. It was confirmed the day of the 19th. And they saw a spring curve on the 20th. That is the next day after. And they are claiming to have good sunrise and sunset data points. And he said it seems very reliable, but he didn't have any pictures of his data. But he did tell me that they have submitted data for years and their data is really good. So he was trusting them that what they told him was correct. Our Johnny and Joan from Montana, they saw the straight line shadow on the 19th. They were saying, yes, March the 20th would be the first day of the new year. They were using the straight line method, and Nathaniel collected the data. They collected data on the 18th. They saw a winter curve on that day, excuse me, and on the 19th, they thought it was a straight line. And Nathaniel says he collected that data from the video that we had at 44 minutes of the timing. He had saw the data on that video. The next one is Remnant of the Light. They're in Moab, Utah, but they had clouds. They could not mark, so the data was inconclusive. And by the way, they do excellent marking. They have three different ways of marking the shadow with different instruments. Very, very accurate, okay? But they had clouds. Tim up in Calgary, Alberta, of course, CC leader. The 19th, straight line. And on the 20th, he was saying, yes, that would be the first day. Straight line method, he collected data on the 21st, and this was from the 49th minute on that video. And he had a long spread and lots of data points. And Nathaniel said he had very good early morning data points. That's what he's looking for, early morning and as late at night as you can. Rob Barron is in California. Yeah, we got some question marks here. Didn't know. He uses 2 or 3 different kinds of shadow marking as well. He has an armillary sundial. He uses straight line method. And on his video, he shared on his channel, it was from the 20th. But Rob mentioned that he thought the line looked centered on the previous day. This is on the armillary as well. And in an earlier video, he was still seeing the curve prior to the 18th, okay? So, just a minute, we're not done with this slide here. Got things to take care of here. Anyway, he was not sure. I think I saw 3 straight line methods in his yard plus an armillary. So he takes the whole week off to mark the spring shadow, but he didn't have really anything that he could report for sure. There's an Ellen in Eastern Australia. He's saying the shadow for him was on March the 20th. So he's saying March the 21st was his first day. But you know what? Nathaniel said it's a tough call. His assessment of his data is that the straight line was confirmed on the 20th, and that's approximately 9 hours of data that he collected. But he thought he was also seeing a straight line on the 21st. But the problem was he only had a half a day of data on the 21st. That was from 9 to 1 p.m. So Nathaniel said that his data for the 21st was unfortunately inconclusive. So it's really important when you're marking the shadow, you need to get enough data, okay, from the morning to the afternoon. Don't stop at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then Damien, he is from Western Australia. Another one, this is blank. And Nathaniel said it's a tough call. It's straight line data, and he's using a cutting board. He said his straight line data was taken on the 21st, but it was questionable. He said straight line or a slight curve. He couldn't really tell. He was looking it over. He said it's inconclusive. Now, Nick Vanderland, he's in Egypt. He does a lot of marking as well. He's marked for a long, long time, but Nathaniel said it was inconclusive. But he was thinking that the straight line happened on the 20th. That was the report that he got. He thought the straight line was on the 20th coming out of Egypt. So that's an interesting area to be looking at. Now we have an anonymous truth seeker from South Africa. I believe it's a lady by the name of Wendy. She marks a lot as well. She was saying she saw the straight line shadow on the 20th. So she's calling March 21st as the first day of the new year. Straight line method, straight line, the afternoon of the 20th. And he's got some questionable marks on the 21st, okay? He's saying, oh, it's pretty good, all right? Then there is Juan Carlos. He's down in Chile. And he also does a lot of marking. He's got quite a setup there, very, very meticulous in his marking, straight line method and armillary. But look at inconclusive. And then Nathaniel. Okay, Nathaniel on Facebook and YouTube from West Virginia, he reported. And of course, he's going to be marking. He knows what to do. He said that he saw the shadow on the 20th. He's declaring the 21st as the first day. And this is confirmed by 3 days, everybody, of running data. And he had opposite curves on the 19th and the 21st. And he said he had a straight line on the 20th. And this is with approximately 9 to 10 hours of sundial marks collected each day. So he was out there every day. Then we have somebody that is anonymous from Florida with the 20th and the 21st, but all he says it's an armillary sundial. He didn't have anything else to report for data. Then we have Rebecca Thomas, a CC member from Michigan, and also Kim from Michigan. They were both tracking, and they both came up with March the 20th and declaring March 21st as the first day of the new year. Both were using the straight line method. For Kim, Nathaniel said, oh, it might be a tough call. He said it looked very close to a straight line on the 20th. 31 minutes into the CC video is where he collected this data from. She was using the straight line. We're going to have Kim talk about that a little bit. But anyway, so we've got March 20th. Look at this. And up here we have March 19th, I mean. So very interesting in what's happening, but I want to point something else out to you as we go to the next slide, because these red ones right here, there's 5 that are in red. These are people that are Dead Sea Scroll calendar people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And Dead Sea Scroll calendar people, Enoch, Zadok, whatever, they're really into marking the straight line. They're into finding it. So let's look what happens on the next slide. Have you noticed something? We noticed something that seemed very interesting. The Zadok, Enoch shadow markers, not one of them were able to collect data for the straight line last year. Found that very interesting. But the CC members, they definitely had data. It might have been a little bit different, but they had data. And that got our attention. Okay, so let's go into a summary of the best data collected. I've just taken his chart, Nathaniel's chart here, and blown it up so that you can see it. I'm just going to leave this down here so you can have a little bit of an idea what we just went over. But his summary of the best data collected is the green, right here in this green circle from Arkansas. He had very good data. E3, this is data for members. These are CC members from Alberta, Montana, and Michigan. Okay, he sort of had misplaced Kim. No, let me see. I think he got Kim in the wrong spot. He didn't know that she was from Michigan. But anyway, the purple is covenant calendar markers, okay? And then the blue, you can see there in G, that was Nathaniel's marking there in West Virginia. And then we have Rob over there in D4. He is from California. Then we have right down here that lady from South Africa. She had good data. And we also had data from Australia. And I actually think Damien is over here in Western Australia. All right. He maybe didn't know that, but we have contact with him. So from Arkansas, this is this area right here, F. Okay, positive vibes. Arkansas had the straight line method. He confirmed that the day of March the 19th was the straight line, and they saw a spring curve on the 20th, and they are claiming to have good sunrise and sunset data points. So he said it seems reliable, but he said he didn't have any pictures, but he felt that it was reliable data because he has collected from them years before. So Nathaniel went on to say that it appears that the first day of spring may have begun somewhere in this time zone. Okay, I've tried to put the time zones up here as much as I could with his map. It doesn't work out absolutely perfect, but this time zone here, which is about -6, he's got it labeled as F. He said it looks like the first data that came in was from time zone F. It also appears that time zone F is equivalent to world time zone around -6. It's hard to tell because the map doesn't seem to be showing a true scale, We're just trying to put this data together the best that we could. Continuing on, it appears that the most reliable readings are from USA and Canada. His most reliable readings were from up here. Yes, we had a good reading here as well. And this was, he was saying, well, it's a reading, right? So Covenant Calendar members, Tim and Johnny, both agreed that they cited the March 19th straight line shadow. And Arkansas cited March 19th straight line shadow. But West Virginia and Michigan, Kim and Rebecca up there in Michigan, said that they cited their straight line shadow on March the 20th. And South Africa definitely said the 20th. And he said that South Africa has been doing good marking, so he could trust that. Some of his summary comments were this: since Zone F and points west, Zone F and points west, cited the teshuva shadow first on March the 19th, it appears this is where Yahuah's international dateline started the count for the new year. And he's saying, especially since Arkansas reported good data points. This is the first year, he says, that we know of where Yahuah's international dateline landed on a landmass. And it's dividing USA and Canada, okay, with interesting and consistent data. This big continent here got divided last year. He said he's never seen that before. Usually this dividing lands in the ocean somewhere, and it doesn't seem to be that important. But this year, the division seems tricky. And Nathaniel says, but be at peace, remembering Yahushua's words of John 4, to worship in spirit and truth wherever you are. Well, this year, some will have Passover on April the 2nd. This is for 2023. This is what we declared. And some are going to be on April the 3rd with our Covenant Calendar family east of this F time zone. So east of this time zone all the way to New Zealand, they were going to be on an April 3rd dating for Passover. So question, where are you on this map? If you were citing the shadow, what data do you think you would have observed? So let's take a closer look at United States and Canada in hopes that the information will benefit our decisions in the future. So let's just take a kind of closer look and zero in on this as much as we can. This is North America. This is approximately the F time zone right here, taking Manitoba around by that Mississippi basin, I would say somewhere in there, over to about the Saskatchewan border and right down through New Mexico, and you can see it right there. Okay, Texas takes in Texas. This time zone right here is where the first data was reported for marking the shadow. Okay, take note of the sun's position here on this map. The sun is over here, okay, out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So I've got a red bar here on this world map for approximately where we believe that the shadow was first sighted, which would be Arkansas, okay? And this blue line comes next right here, okay? This time zone F is what we're looking at. So it's time to make a decision, depending on where you live. This was what we were looking at last year. Just as there were many in the world that celebrate their weekly Shabbat on a different day and a different date, and we're all okay with that. The question is there any reason to question that at times the festivals will follow the same pattern, even within one country or continent? According to John 4, this is quite all right, especially when we know that all start within the same 24-hour time frame. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, we're all going to have our Passover within 24 to 36 hours. It's not that we're going to be 2 or 3 days apart. We'll all be within that window. According to Scripture, what are we instructed to do? This was our question in March 2023. And we remember in Psalms 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days and apply our hearts unto wisdom. We're to number all of our days. Don't miss any, don't add any in, okay? What does that really mean? Well, our goal is to find the straight line shadow in the most accurate way from where we live. And then we start the new year count the next day at dawn. That means that we need to start practicing now. We need to, this was last year in March. We said we need to use the summer solstice and the fall teshuva to our advantage. Let's start practicing marking our shadow and be ready for spring teshuva in March 2024. And we discovered the people that did this, there was quite a few from around the world that were practicing. We discovered that practice had rewards, and we learned a lot. We learned that we have to count all the way around to 355 or so, that many days, and be ready to start marking the shadow at least a week in advance of when you expect to see that teshuva shadow sign. And one of these years, we're expecting that that sign will show up on day 360. So we said, let's collect data with other people in your own time zone, and let's verify between each other as witnesses. I might have clouds and you might not have clouds, so we can verify our data and then submit the data to the leaders in the project so we can look at it and give tips and give counsel. And we did want people to join together in their time zones so that they could celebrate together as well. You know the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, okay? So when in your time zone, do as the rest of those in your time zone. We're just continuing on with these assessments. We had determined at our Sukkot Sundial 101 workshop in 2022 that we could estimate the spring dates for Passover, but we all agreed that we will have to check the shadows to be absolutely sure. And if the shadow dictates otherwise, we all agreed that we will adjust the dates accordingly. That was 6 months before. Yet, what happened? Well, only a few Covenant Calendar members took the time to get ready to watch the shadow when we should have been divorcing ourselves from NASA. And I was one of those. I was not doing it either. And I realized that I had learned a really hard lesson. And what was the conclusion to this? We began to understand that we do not have to depend on any NASA information when we just faithfully do our counting and be prepared, just as the virgins that had enough oil. We realize that we can do this by ourselves. We don't need to have NASA helping us. We have our own oil. We feel that the information that came forth in 2023 was an interesting lesson indeed, that Yahuah has been so faithful to catch our attention, to follow his ways, so we can all know exactly what our marching orders are. And in a summary, we're almost done. There's a few more things to consider. The assessments of recommendations from our Covenant Calendar team leaders on Shabbat of March 25th, 2023 was this. On March 25th, the only data that the Covenant Calendar team members had on the 25th, and we thought that that was accurate enough, we presented that on March the 25th, and we presented to the whole panel that Passover date would have to be adjusted to April the 2nd from our original estimate of April the 3rd. At that time, we felt that the only reliable data we had was from Alberta and Montana because we were not sure if the Michigan data was accurate or not because of the short 1/2 inch gnomon. But we know better now, okay? We were questioning that. It was Kim's first time marking. She decided to get everything out and get going on that very day, and she had beautiful marking. It was a straight line, but we just weren't really sure because we're on different dates now. Well, at the time, it was the best decision possible under the circumstances since very few took time to track the shadow. And we did not receive the world data from Nathaniel till March the 30th. This is like 5 days later. But still, the March 25th decision seemed to cause quite a bit of alarm and concern, especially when no one was expecting that kind of an announcement because it was going to split North America, where most of our CC members are. Well, why is this? It was because most of us had been married to NASA, and we had to admit it. We were married to NASA, and we were going to go with NASA's information on the teshuva equinox moment. Did we feel that was good enough and trustworthy enough to have a firm date for Yahuah's New Year Day? Well, now with Nathaniel's data, we're able to see the much larger picture, of which we decided to launch into the Summer World experiment to see if our assessment might be trustworthy for future consideration. Well, what would that be? Okay, we had such a big surprise. So we're asking, what about that sun? Do you remember that sun was always hugging that red bar? We're just wondering if that sun has a key of knowledge, something that we need to be thinking about and watching closer. Well, I told you we would come back to March 2023. Here we go. We've got our Arkansas F zone on here, approximately in this area of North America, down the Mississippi Basin, all right? Here's our sun. This is where the night season was in year 2022. As you can see, it's moved all this direction in 1 year. And we have a distance here between the sun and this red bar, okay? Did you notice that on every teshuva slide from 2020 to 2030 that the sun was following that red bar? Is there a clue here that we can be watching for something special? Note the position of the sun in relation to that red bar for zone number -6 right there, okay? Well, let's keep going. Let's pose a question and a theory. That's what we said. We need to pose a question and a theory now. It's time to think outside of the box. So we're looking again at March 2023. Right there from time and date tells you that this is the equinox moment according to NASA, 2124. Okay, this is at night. Is it possible that when the sun follows that red bar, that Yahuah's new international date line will be located about 3.5 time zones east of that location? That's what we were looking for. Well, the sun is here. Okay, go 3.5 time zones east. That was where we found our first person that could mark and verify his data of seeing the shadow, the straight line shadow first in the whole world. So we're thinking, is there a clue here from this sun? Well, if you go 3.5 hours east, what time is it going to be there? And it's about 3.5 time zones. So our next question was this: shall we test that theory at the 2024 spring teshuva? Shall we try to test this theory and see if something is going to show up in March 2024? This might be another key to help us understand where and who in the world will see the shadow first. We're just thinking that Yahuah has probably handed us a key of knowledge, and what are we going to do with it? We need to unlock what's going on. So we've been in a world experience. Well, with all of that information, this is what we decided to announce. Last year, we announced that April 1st, 2023 would be a happy Passover, and it would be April the 2nd on a Sunday, the first cycle of the week, for those on the west side, or it could be April 3rd on the second cycle of Monday on the other side. And it depended where you were living, depended where you lived. So let's just do a little short summary for 2023, just to bring it all together, because we want to look at what's happening in 2024. This is the 2023. This is where the night season was. The sun is in this location right here. This is high noon at this gold bar. High noon at the time of the equinox. The equinox event is over here in Greenwich. You can see the midnight line. Greenwich says it's March the 20th because they've gone past this Roman midnight marker. But on the other side of the line, it's already March the 21st. So everybody over here on this side, it's March the 21st, but guess what? It's not March the 21st until you get to the dawn day, right? On covenant calendar. So this area here with the Philippines, they were in those twilight zones. twilight zones for March the 21st. That's why we're saying, what is it? When do they get to see the straight line? March 2023, a very special note. The universal time coordinate had teshuva on March the 20th. Remember that time coordinate's over here. Had it on March the 20th, according to NASA. But there were areas west of the bronze bar that marked the shadow on March the 19th. Let's do an extra review next, okay? They said it was March the 20th, but we had markers over here that saw the straight line on March the 19th. NASA, what happened? Thought you were supposed to be accurate. Let's come back to this map once again. Don't forget this time zone F is approximately -6. It's in there, okay? The time zone marked F being approximately -6 according to this world time zone designation. In March of 2023, that first shadow recorded on the March the 19th was about north central Arkansas, right there, that red circle with the blue bar. They had really good data, but then about 6 weeks later, we received data from Oklahoma, and he showed up his data. Yes, he had the 19th. We had data from Montana on the 19th. We had data from Alberta on the 19th. And Rob Barron there in California, he was thinking it was the 19th. That was kind of an iffy one, but lots of 19, March 19 here on this western side. So putting it all together, that would have given this area of the world an April 2nd Passover. And everyone on the other side, with those in Michigan and West Virginia there, Nathaniel and our covenant calendar ladies, they were in April 3rd Passover, okay? So we had a split, big split there. Just give you some time to look at that. As you see where the night season is up here. Okay, so everything east of this red bar all the way to New Zealand would have had a Passover on April 3rd on their calendar date. Well, an illustration of how the shadow marked its line in 2023 is shown here a little bit, maybe a little bit closer up so that you can have an idea of what was really happening. It was a huge learning experience that we had to have last year. We had to go through it. And we believe that Yahuah was marking his international date line. Now, this blue bar is what we're saying was Yahuah's international date line, because the gentleman that marked was from north central Arkansas, so somewhere in this area. Then we have Michigan marking on the 20th, West Virginia on the 20th. So this distance between Arkansas to Michigan is about 565 miles or over 1,000 kilometers. In this area, we did not have anybody marking that reported data to us. So March 19th was a straight line shadow from this blue bar all the way, especially in this continent, all the way west. And March 20th, a straight line shadow all the way east to New Zealand. Okay, from Arkansas all the way east. So what next? Well, this is what we're looking at this year, because we know we're going to have data coming in this time. We've had a lot of people marking last year, and we've been talking about this world experiment. And so now we know that we're going to have a lot of people sending in data. This is just some sample charting of what we had from 2023, because there wasn't that many that marked. But you can see the 19th, March the 19th, right here. And those that were marking on the 20th in blue, okay, we're in blue. And look it's really easy to see where the Yahuah's international date line, it was somewhere in there, really easy. So this year, when you send in your data, we're hoping that everyone will send it in very, very quickly. We are going, if you're on March 19th, March 20th, or whatever, even if there's a March 21, we will put it in different colors. And you know what? I think Nathaniel's going to have a live map where you can check it. And you're going to see between yellow and blue, you're going to see where that international date line is going to show up. So this is something that we're looking at, is having a live data marking program going on. As your data comes in, we'll get it put up on the world map. Well, we're going to go back to March 2023. Remember I said from this sun marker, which is high noon, about 3.5 hours east, it was in this time zone, this F time zone, that we had the first marking come in, okay? The very first marking come in. So does it appear to you that this yellow shaded area could mark the shadow from morning to afternoon, okay? Because if you go from noon, 3.5 hours later, it's already going to be about 3:30 in the afternoon. So they would have had all day to mark their shadow. That's not a problem, not a bit. Well, next, here's the next question. Was it possible to predict who would see the teshuva first in September 2023? We're going by this data. We're thinking, okay, something's happening with the sun and 3.5 hours going east. So we're saying, can we use that very same data and find out who should possibly be able to see the September shadow, straight line shadow first? So here we go. This is the September map. The night season is going to be over here in the North America and South America area. I just want you to note this midnight line here is going to separate the dates. The autumn teshuva was September 23 at 6:50 in the morning. That would be right here on this bronze bar with Greenwich, 6:50 in the morning. Okay, that is September 23rd. But you know this midnight marker on the other side of it, it's September 22. Everyone from this midnight marker going all the way, okay, east is going to be September 23rd. So here we are again. September 23, here's our high noon with our sun. We're using our pattern, 3.5 hours. We're marking our red bar right there, okay? So we were thinking, there could be something interesting happening here. Let's see if we can figure this out. Well, the calendar project for the September marking was we wanted to test the theory with the information that we had from the spring Tequfah and project that those first to see the fall teshuva shadow could be in the time zones of possibly +8, +9, somewhere in here, somewhere in this time zone. Okay, that's what we're saying. If we can use the patterns and if they're accurate, maybe we can figure this out. Remember, the sun's time actually here is 11:50 a.m. and this red line is representing 3.5 hours. Okay, and this red bar is approximately 2:20 in the afternoon. You can see it's right through the Philippines, dividing there Australia a little bit as well. Okay. Well, an update. First of all, I wanted to say, does it appear that this yellow shaded area could mark the shadow first from the morning to the afternoon? That's what we were saying, in this area somewhere. That was our question. But I'm going to give you an update of what happened. We were not able to complete the project for this part of the world, and we had people that were very anxious to do it, especially there in Malaysia. Pochai is very close to the equator. We were so excited to get some data of somebody close to the equator because Nathaniel said he's never had anybody marking close to the equator. But we didn't get anywhere with our experiment because the South Pacific in this area had very heavy monsoons and no one could collect any data. Now, don't forget, it is the fall teshuva, September, but in this part of the world, it is actually their spring. It is not their autumn. So we now feel that March is the best time of the year, guess what? For everybody in the whole world to collect shadow data for the whole world. It is the best time for the whole world. And you know what? That was interesting for us because we never thought about that before either. So here we are with this new question, March 2024. What about March 2024? Can we make an assessment of what we think might happen next month with all of the data that we have collected? Well, we're going to look at March 2024 here for a little bit. Don't forget, we've got Covenant Calendar members all over in all of these time zones. You know, maybe not a lot, over here in the South Pacific area, but you know what? There's good markers over here. We have good markers in South Africa. We have good markers in Malawi and Kenya. Okay, I've seen it. You're going to see some of it today. And we're depending on some of our people up here in Israel and Malta and Greece and Europe and yeah, good markers. We have good markers up in this area as well, and we had very good data coming in from Canada and North America and our world experiment. So this is going to be an interesting year. Once again, I want you to take note of the sun and the moon position. What do you see about that sun? It's hugging that red bar, isn't it? And like I said, we've got many covenant calendar members in pretty much all the time zones of the world. So it's the same question as it was last year. Who is going to see the March teshuva shadow first? And when? So we just thought we have to take a closer look at this, okay? Let's keep going. The next question that we're going to have is going to deal with this part of the world, time zones -8 to -5. Will the time zones in the Erev evening twilight, this is Erev evening twilight coming on, okay, over here, because here's the night coming, will these time zones be able to track the straight line shadow on their March the 19th? Now, let's look over here. Teshuva for March, according to NASA, is saying March the 20th at 3 o'clock in the morning. But what about us over here? These points over here in these twilight zones. Are we going to see the shadow on March the 19th as the sun moves across the sky before the night season moves in? Or are we going to have to wait till our March 20th arrives? Now, that is a good question. We want to know the answer to that question because that is a key. That's going to have a key that's going to unlock some things that we need to understand. Okay, let's do something a little bit different here. Let's move our time zones over to -6 to -3. This is a really important question, and we have a lot of people living in this area, many members in the time zones between -6 to -3, which happens to also be what in the night season of this teshuva event. All right. Will they be able to track the straight line shadow on their March the 19th? Because it's March the 19th. But don't forget, teshuva, according to NASA, is March the 20th. Will they be able to track the straight line shadow on their March the 19th as the sun moves across their sky before that night season moves in? And it's the same question. Are they going to have to wait for their March 20th before they'll see the straight line shadow? Everyone, I don't know the answer to the question. That's what we're wanting to find out. And it is an important question. Okay. Well, what about our CC members, our covenant calendar members between +4 to +12 time zones? What about them? Well, you know what? Let's look at the South Pacific first. Let's look at the map for them. This is March 2024. We're going to look at time zones between +4 and to +12. Okay, remember UTC is 0. These time zones are already on March the 20th. So it would seem reasonable that they should be able to track the straight line shadow on their March 20th as the sun moves across the sky. And that's exactly what NASA says. March the 20th is the day. All right. So we're thinking, yeah, they should be able to track it. What we're wondering now, everyone, take a look here. What's happening in New Zealand? This is what we're wondering. Is New Zealand going to be the first to see the straight line shadow on March the 20th? And do you know why I'm asking? Because of this sun and this red bar, okay? And going 3.5 time zones east. All right, that lands right here around New Zealand. Could it be, everybody? Do you think they'll be the first ones to see the straight line shadow of all the covenant calendar members in the whole world? Well, I'm going to tell you what. We have little Asher over there in New Zealand. He's only 8 years old. He's our youngest shadow marker. And he has submitted data this week from February the 19th, about a month early. Look at that, everyone. He is tracking the curve already. Isn't that wonderful? Look at all those data points, okay? He's really doing a good job there with his mom and his dad. Asher's going to be right there. He's going to be watching. We're going to ask Yahuah to bless Asher to see that straight line. He's got a nice curve happening here. See that? And he's going to be watching to see that curve straighten out. They gave me all the data points. Look at this wonderful data that was sent, where their location is, the time zone, their gnomon, 7 centimeters or about 2 3/4 inches. Solar noon, okay, 1:34 p.m. If it's possible, mark that time. Mark that time 1:34. That solar noon is really important. And they did 11 markings throughout the day. Look at that. They did 11 markings. They got all the way to 15:25, about 3:25 in the afternoon, and then the sun disappeared over their building. And Asher's advice is that if you're marking, just be really careful. Don't bump your board because then your data is all gone. So congratulations, Asher. We're going to be watching your data as it comes in. And by the way, Nathaniel said that he's already taking data. So it's not too early for some of us to be marking. Well, the next question is, what about our covenant calendar members between -2 to +3 time zones? What about them? Let's look at the area of United Kingdom, Europe, and Africa. Let's take a look at that area. Here we go. This is the area that we want to look at next, because we've got this night season to deal with. Remember, this March, NASA says equinox moment, teshuva, is 3:06 in the morning. You can see there's Greenwich going to be in that area, about by that pink dot right there. And yes, it looks like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's March the 20th for them. On the other side of this midnight marker, west is still the March the 19th, according to Roman reckoning. But first, I want you to note the time zones of -2 to -1, these time zones right here. These night season time zones are already on March the 20th. Now, there really isn't too many people living in the Atlantic Ocean there, but if there was somebody there, would they be able to track the straight line shadow on their March the 19th? Or is it going to be on their 20th? Now, they're in the night season here, okay? Definitely, right around midnight, as that sun is going across the sky. What do you think? At this point, we don't know. We don't know until we would receive some shadow marking data from members in that area. And if there was anybody in this part of South America, we would surely like to have their data. Absolutely, we would like to have it. But there is another question that we also need to answer. Let's take a look at that. This is still March 2024. We are now going to look at this second scenario between +2 to +3 time zones. What about this section? This section is in the Boker twilight. This is the morning twilight right here. These time zones are also on March the 20th. But our question is, will they be able to track the straight line shadow on their March the 20th? Is that the way it's going to be? Looks like it, doesn't it? Looks like that's what's going to happen. Now, we do have some good markers up in this area. Okay, we even have some markers up in Norway, we hope. We have some here as well in Greece. It's going to be in the twilight. Israel. Look at our CC members in Uganda, in Malawi, and South Africa. They're going to be in this twilight zone. Now, for them, it is definitely March the 20th, because when you have the first light, that changes your day from March 19th to the 20th. So they are definitely in the 20th. These people here, this part of Africa, according to covenant calendar, they're still on March the 19th. At this point, we don't know. We just need to have some marking. We need to have some data from people that live in these twilight zones. We need to find out what is the key that's going to unlock. How can we tell? We're still remembering the sun is hugging that red line, okay? Just looking at a lot of things. Well, guess what, everybody? There's always another question. Is there something very special happening for those that live in this twilight zone? Either this is the Boker and this is the Erev. Is there something happening in these twilight zones, something really special this year? And we do have a lot of people that can mark, okay? And Nathaniel might have some as well. So there's something special happening in these mixings. I think there's going to be a key if we just keep looking. Well, we do have a surprise. This is from Uganda. This is from Dan and Irene in Uganda. And they're really close to the equinox as well. Just a few days ago, Dan submitted marking for February 16th, February 19th, and February 22nd. His gnomon pencil, you know how tall a pencil is. Solar noon is around 13:04 in the afternoon, but look at that beautiful curve, okay? Really good marking here. This is the 22nd, beautiful curve. Look at that. And this one as well, another beautiful curve. So Uganda, congratulations. We are going to really be excited to see what you have because you're in that twilight zone, that Boker twilight zone. Very excited to see that curve move into a straight line at teshuva. Dan is one of the people in Uganda, along with a few others that were marking and entering in the world experiment we had last year, got a lot of practice in, and you can tell his practice paid off. He's got his east, west, north, and south. Gave me a lot of data. I like that. Thank you so much. So here we are, March 2024. What about March 2024? With all the data collected thus far, we are questioning, will members in this yellow shaded area around New Zealand be the first ones to see the shadow for the world as we discovered in March 2023 with Arkansas? New Zealand, are you going to be the first? Or we had somebody up there in the Hawaiian Islands around in here in this area? That's what we think, everyone. We think they could be the first. Are we going to be right? Have we discovered a key, something to do with that sun and 3.5 hours? If that is so, is the location of the sun to 3.5 time zones east part of the next shadow puzzle piece in the covenant calendar journey? This is a world experiment, and we have many others that are coming on board with us from a ministry in Oregon that have members all around the world. So they are getting everybody on board as well. Everyone, once again, this year in 2024, we are going to welcome Nathaniel back. He's going to be back with us next week from West Virginia for his interest in this exciting world project. He cannot wait. He is so excited. And he's going to be helping us to assemble the data as quickly as possible so we can get it up on that world map. And the data from every participant will be a very special key for the outcome that we are expecting to find. Everybody that could possibly mark, just tell everybody, this is going to be fun because we have an idea of what's happening. We are looking for that key, that covenant calendar key. Now, as we finish up, I just want to give you a little marking tip. We're going to be doing more of this a little bit later on. This is something that happened to me here in September last year. I was marking with a nail, and the last 2 days, my nail was ghosting out. So I decided I'm going to use a stick pin. This is just a dressmaker stick pin, about an 1 inch and 1/8 long. That's all it is. And I was marking according to the end, the very tip of this glass bead, okay? And I did get a really nice straight line. Now, it's hard, I've enlarged this a lot, so it was a nice straight line. But I'm recommending if you use a stick pin, and we definitely do think that would be a tall enough gnomon, that right here where this red arrow is pointing, mark right there at that point. I asked Nathaniel about this. I said, would that be more accurate? Because for some of us, we found that the end of our pointed gnomon was ghosting out too much in the early morning and the later evening. It was ghosting out. We couldn't really tell where to mark. But he said, yes, indeed, that would be Perfect. So that's just an idea for some of you that are wanting to mark. Of course, a stick pin's really, really skinny. You can put it into I'm recommending a plastic board or poster boards that are sort of foamy. You can stick your pins in there and you can use it, cover up the holes with uh, Correcto tape, whatever it's called, cover them up and you can go again the next day. But try something new, try all kinds of things. See what you can come up with. Just have fun with it and learn as you go along. So Nathaniel said he's ready to compile the data. Just send it in to me at questions@studythecalendar. Get your data to us and we will work together with Nathaniel. So as we finish up, this is the question. Does Yahuah want us to be aware of what is happening in this world of many time zones? Is he giving us simple clues as what to look for next? Is Yahuah calling covenant calendar members to work together and to be the leaders in this? Because remember, those that were following the Enoch Zadok calendars, they didn't have any data to report last year. Are we the ones that are going to be the leaders in this? I kind of think so. Is it time for the Covenant Calendar Classroom World Project to continue? Yes, it is, as we hope to find the very next set of results and many answers in March 2024 as we seek for Yahuah's instructions where we live. So we say, come and see, come and mark, and don't forget, you can send your questions and your data to questions@studythecalendar.com. And next week, we want to do some questions and answers on marking and just do a lot of work in that area. So come back next week. Thank you and shalom.